everyone. Welcome to council meeting for Town of the Paw for February. Might be someplace warm. It's August the 8th, 2016. For our council meeting, we'll call the meeting to order. Item number 2 on our agenda is adoption of the agenda.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Rock. Be it resolved that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Any discussion? Any additions or deletions? All in favor? Item number 3, confirmation of minutes.
Moved by Councillor Rock, seconded by Councillor Morris. Be resolved that the minutes of the public hearing, the regular council meeting, and the committee of the whole meeting of July 21st, 2016 be hereby approved, all statutory declarations having been complied with.
Any discussions on the minutes?
Jim, just as I wasn't present,
Yeah.
I can't vote on it.
No, I understand. Okay, any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried 6-0. See if I can get them on check. Okay, citizens period. Citizens. This is an opportunity for anybody who would like to come forward and say whatever they would like.
I'm sitting here as a citizen. Everybody knows me. My name is Margaret Commodore, councillor. I live at 58 Bachelor Road. I run a business at 235 Fisher. Okay, Mayor and Council, everybody sitting here. Over the past few months, there has been a total disconnect between the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, and Council. After the last meeting, it strengthened my values and beliefs in sitting on Council. As I have spoken on this before regarding social media, that we have to work together. Again, this isn't transpiring. Jim Scott, you seem to have made it your personal objective, along with the discontented fire personnel that no longer belong in the fire department, to publicly defame our fire chief, Greg Zimmerman, and our administration. I have to commend you on your knowledge of the fire department and how quickly you came up with a list of printed questions to the fire chief, Greg Zimmerman, at the last council meeting, even after he gave us a full report to council. I find it very disrespectful on your part to council and to administration after a decision was made by an administrative, oh my tongue's tied, and a committee. Even if you disagree, under the code of conduct, you are to respect the decision made. I think this is a procedure. But no, you just keep on keeping on that flame burning. Yet again, procedures are not followed. The damage that was done to my personal business over this fiasco is quite distressing. Just a minute here. I rewrote this. Okay, yet again, I'm going to backtrack. Yet again, procedures and code of conduct are not followed, and the damage that is done to mine and my daughter's personal business over this fiasco is quite distressing. The release of the names of myself, Councillor Rock, Deputy Mayor Crystal Mornish, to the Pasqua Times, with a printed, from which I remind you was from, and remind everyone here, was from an in-camera personnel meeting. And what I'm referring to is that I did not disclose this info, and I've spoken to Councillor Rock, and he did not disclose any info either. Could somebody please tell me how the press knows the outcome of this vote? And since this was disclosed, do you not think it would have been fair to disclose the nature of the vote? I myself have every
I'm
confidence.
sorry, can you just say that one more time? I didn't quite catch that line, that last sentence.
And since this was disclosed, do you not think it would have been fair to disclose the nature of the vote, what we were voting on?
Thank you.
I myself have every confidence in administration of the town of the Paw, along with Chief Greg Zimmerman and his firefighters. I am concerned with the morale of our staff and administration and wondering who is going to be targeted next. And that is my opinion. Thank you all for listening to me.
Make a note here, sir. Any comments? Okay, anybody else wish to make a presentation to council?
I'll say something. You want to talk about people being fair and following rules?
Just for the record, just give your name and address.
My name's Rick Rezoning. We want to talk about being fair and following rules. No rules were followed in our termination without
Point
cause.
of order.
Okay?
This is not an issue for public discussion because
She just brought it up.
we cannot respond because it's a personnel issue. I said, so what are we to do? And to give you a public forum, just to give you a public forum would be inappropriate and disrespectful to our staff. Because neither can they respond.
How disrespectful is it to lay off or fire without cause 3 firefighters that had perfectly good records?
Hold it,
You
hold
want
it,
to talk
hold it.
about being
Hold up,
disrespectful?
just hold up. Yeah.
I would just make the point that this is, this is the citizens' period, which means that any citizen can bring forward at any point. So the fact that it may be a personnel matter related to Mr. Rousson or somebody else is kind of irrelevant from ourselves unless he starts discussing somebody else's personnel matter, in which case, yeah, I would agree with the point of order. If he's simply discussing his personal matter, we're obviously can't respond to it. Mr. Rousson would recognize that if it's a personnel matter, we can't do that, but you can't stop someone from addressing elected officials in a citizens' period, provided that they stick to the context of, which is that you can speak for yourself. You can't speak to other persons' personnel matters. You could maybe speak to their opinions if you want to, but we'll just have to take that on your word that that's their
No, I'm
opinion.
just saying my...
So you'll just have to watch your line of speaking through the course of this if you want to have the opportunity to speak clearly, okay? That's all.
Yep.
Okay?
And we just remind people that you have 15 minutes,
Yeah.
just for the sake of time.
Yeah.
With a room full of people, if
I
there's a
just
lot
wanted
of
to
people who
make
want
a
to speak.
statement. If we're going to talk about following rules, there should have been some rules followed that clearly weren't followed in our terminations. And then you do a personnel committee hearing and don't even interview the person that was responsible for doing the terminations. You just automatically make your mind up and do a decision without even talking to all the parties that were involved, which I think is totally unfair. I think in order to make a proper decision, you have to interview everybody, and that's not what happened. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Could I ask a question of clarification?
Sure.
What rules are you specifically referring to?
As far as what?
You made a strong statement that rules were not followed, but you didn't clarify what those rules were.
Bylaws weren't followed?
So you mean the fire
You
bylaw?
sure?
You're referring to the fire bylaw?
Yeah.
Okay.
You had a 45-page report in our hearing. If you would have read it, you would have known all the rules that were broken. But I don't think you guys even read it, because from what I heard, your decision was made before we even spoke.
From
I
what
think that's
you-
unfair.
That's-
right?
that's- yeah.
Come
You
on
can't
now,
say that.
right? So you think we didn't read it?
Well,
Thanks for that vote of confidence. That's very nice.
it is what it is.
It is what it is. I guess so.
Just by way of comment, as my own, when I came here to serve on council, I came here to serve everybody in town. People I like, people I don't like, people I agree with, I disagree with, it doesn't matter. When councilors are required to serve on committees and perform duties, those duties are defined by bylaws and regulations that we have to follow. It's not necessarily whether we agree or disagree with them, it's what we're required to do. For myself, I believe all the rules and regulations with regard to the bylaw have been followed.
Just hang on. Anybody else want to speak?
Name's Matt McCarr. I'm an active fireman with the Paw Fire Department. So I wasn't here for the introduction of what we're discussing. I'm assuming it's towards the fire department. Am I correct? Or am I incorrect? I don't.
This is a citizens' period. You can come and
Okay.
talk about your
Okay.
neighbor's dirty lawn if you want.
So, as a person that is a volunteer firefighter for the town of Paw, I have brought up 2 personnel issues against a person that's actively on our department, and he has committed what I would say an assault and uttering threats to me, and nothing's been done about it. This has been over a month, and you're saying to these guys here that you serve all the counselors. So who's going to answer to that as a volunteer fireman, that somebody can do that in a workplace that you guys are supposed to be governing?
So your concern was brought forward to a staff member of the town of the Paw?
Yeah. And I've waited 3-4 weeks now, and I finally got an answer about a meeting.
So you've
4 weeks.
received some response, but you feel like it wasn't timely?
It wasn't, no. It's against the whole policy of respectful workplace that you guys strictly enforce of a 0 tolerance. And this individual has strictly broken that thing and has been allowed to do it for endless time, and it still continues to do it. Secondly,
Okay, we're not going to get in a big quarrel here.
the town bylaw states many things about how the department will consist of a full-time fire chief and a full-time deputy fire chief and 20 to 30 volunteer firefighters. I don't see where it says CFPO. But can somebody explain that as well to me? As a paying tax citizen, I want to know that answer.
I'm the dummy of the bunch. What's a CFPO?
The Chief Fire Prevention Officer doesn't exist in the town bylaw, from what I've read as of recently.
Right.
So I just want to know how this position was created, and it doesn't consist in our bylaw. I can get the bylaw that's as active as right now and have it highlighted. So either when it was acclaimed and it was changed, it wasn't done properly. So to me, the position doesn't exist
Jen, is
as
it
a tax-paying person.
Is it a requirement that we have identified in all of our bylaws
The
all
bylaw
positions?
says fire chief and deputy fire chief.
But in
doesn't just
general,
say-
hang on one second, but in general, for our employees, do we identify every single position within our organization through bylaws?
No, we don't.
We don't.
And it should, I would also like to point out that that bylaw has been sent out for
It was passed, right? March,
external review.
wasn't it? By you guys, it was passed. So that's my question. As a volunteer now, and as a paying citizen, the position doesn't exist to me because it's not in the bylaw. It clearly states what it will have. It doesn't have CFPO, so I think it'd have to go back to a vote. Am I wrong or right? If you're going to change the bylaw again, doesn't it have to go back to a vote?
Well, when the bylaw is returned to council, we anticipate some recommendations. Maybe there will be, maybe there won't be. But
So there'll be a public hearing for that, is what I'm
there's
saying.
always a public hearing for
Perfect.
every piece of paper that's drafted here.
Perfect.
Yeah, you'll have a look at it for sure.
Perfect. That's all I want to know.
So, sorry, and just to answer to how that position was created, what happened was, we had a recommendation, from the fire department that.
From the fire department or the fire chief?
Well, it would come from the fire chief, because that's the department head, right? So that's who the recommendation would flow down to us from.
But did he ever consider to consult with the fire department members of
I
what's
don't-
best for the
I
fire?
don't know if that's
Okay.
necessary, like,
No, I
in
understand.
creating the, position, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like a shady secret position that was
But
created.
there was
Like
never a
this
competition,
council,
am I
this
correct?
council passed a resolution to
Right.
have that position created.
So how come there was never a posting for it to be a competition?
That I can't answer,
Can
because we
anybody
don't
answer
do
that?
the hiring process, right?
Okay.
Like, we have staff people, so.
So that'd be something, it wasn't just me that's bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
On the social media network, there was a ton of that as well. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Any members of council? Oh, no?
Right. Not directly involved into the fire department issue, but I will say, as a member of this community that has lived here a long time, I can't ever remember an issue that has been so badly handled. I can ever remember hearing of an issue that affects so many, I use the word maybe upstanding members of our community that have been displaced in such a weird way. This really needs to be handled in a much more professional way. I'm not passing judgment on the councillors, I'm passing judgment on the situation and how it was handled. The town has got many more pressing issues that need to be handled. This has been going on for, correct me if I'm wrong, a couple of months. You know, it's been, I'm not a big social networking or media person, but it's absolutely asinine, the amount of back and forth that is going on over this. We need to move forward in this town on a lot of outstanding issues, and this issue, I don't mean to degrade its importance because it is hugely important, but it needs to be really looked at and handled in a much more professional way, because it sure, I'm on the outside looking in, and I'm not picking sides here, but there's an odor to it that isn't quite nice, isn't very nice at all. So I would just hope that this gets dealt with, and so we can move forward into what other things need to be done in this town. Thank you.
Okay. One more time, anybody else?
I'd like to thank Murray Hawkins for your comments. Thank you. I agree. It's time, we have a lot of pressing issues, and this is not one of them. Not one of them. No, okay. But this is not an area for social media. This is an area from behind closed doors, which was done professionally with administration. The intimidation I will not take. I will not be intimidated by anybody sitting in the audience. I have every right to say what I feel, and I'm going to say it. When I sat on that committee, I was given, this is what you were voting on. Was the rules and regulations properly followed? Yes, it was. But no, that wasn't printed in the paper. And social media is not for a professional person to partake in. That is for, at Facebook, personnel, hi Mom, how you doing? The little bit that I saw, I'm totally disgusted with it. And I actually turned my face away from a lot of it because I don't want to hear any of that stuff.
I can add one thing. It sounds like procedure was followed, okay? But we can't sit here and hide behind procedure. Like how much, what seems to be missing, and I think of the frustration amongst the public, is that, yeah, we get the procedure was followed, but what the thought process was behind the procedure, right? And I'm not here to ask for that, but that seems to be the frustration in the general public, that how did we get to that decision? Procedure may have been followed, but that, I'm just, as a general public, I'm saying that's the frustration out there. People are just beside themselves. So you get that social media outrage. So
I was just going to echo what you say, Murray, is that it's 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, I recommend the bylaw go to the OSC. Because this seems to happen, not to this degree, but looking back, it happens every 3 or 4 years with some sort of issue with the fire department. So the procedure is broken, in my opinion, right? Some's not
Very much
right.
could be.
Right.
Yeah.
So whether we follow or not, that's great, and I agree with that. But it's wrong. Like, so we need to send it out, someone get best practices, come back and say, this is how we're going to do it going forward. And I've said this openly to everyone, there's no winners in this, guys. There's no winners sitting here. It's not good for these guys. Like, I think they feel we don't like a decision, they're going to get hauled in front of the public. We're building a sick organization, right? We're killing ourselves. This is a big issue, but we have a lot of big issues as well, and we have the resources actually to deal with it, I believe, and we have a lot of young, good staff, but we're spending all our time doing this, right? So there's been mistakes made, I believe, on both sides, right? We've got to fix the problem and move forward. That's not going to make everyone happy, guaranteed, right? But it's where we're at. But we can't keep doing this as a community. We're killing ourselves. This is terrible. Right? Like, it's not
really
good. It's not healthy for you guys. It's healthy for no one, right? And we have so much potential as a community, and this is what we're wasting our time with, right? And I don't mean it's a waste, but we're to me, the procedure was busted. I'm an operations guy. So you look at it, you read through the bylaw, can see the holes, you can see how this happens, right? You can see how it came out, and I'm not a bylaw guy, but again, operations, so send it to the experts, that's what I would do. I'd send it to a consultant, say, who does this the best in our region? Come back and tell us, so we can fix it. Because what's happening here is, if we don't fix that, it's gonna keep happening again and again, right? And again, I think there's enough blame to go around for everyone, but we just gotta stop.
I'm wondering if we then, I believe your words are move forward, going forward, do we then just forget about what happened and it doesn't matter that 3 incredibly good people in our community were terminated? We just forget that and move forward?
I'm not forgetting anything, Jim, but I mean, we gotta fix it going forward, right? There's some blame over here, right?
Sure.
So I mean, my opinion, there's too much, some councils got too involved and made it worse for them over there. And that's my opinion. But we can go on, but
we would go on forever.
All I would say in any organization, you know, you run a large staff, we have 140 some people. If there was a mass termination, and I call it mass, of senior staff, it raises a lot of eyebrows. It would have to be, holy crap, what the hell is going on here? So procedure may have been followed, but I don't know if council really knew what was going on behind the scenes. On the outside looking in, right?
And I agree,
Fair
but
enough.
what ensued, and some of this on our part, and it pushed it to how we are, right? There's some things we can't talk about, but there was things that happened that make it worse, right?
Thank you for your time. Thank you. If it was something so heinous to cause this, how come the town doesn't have the balls to tell
You need to
us?
come forward if you're going
It
to.
has nothing, you know,
Just a moment.
All we're asking for is a reason, and I don't think that's unreasonable to ask. And that's what the town wants. That's what's causing social networking. We tried going through the proper channels. We wasted 10 weeks doing that. That's when it went on social networking. You're making it sound like this all happened instantly. We waited 10 weeks.
No, I'm
10
not.
weeks for this.
I'm not. I'm just stating a few facts.
Well, this is the facts. We waited 10 weeks trying to do things your way, and it didn't work. So we did it our way. And I know it wasn't right,
Administration, we have our administration that
but you
does our
weren't right
job.
either.
Don't you me. Mister, I'm sorry. And you people behind you shaking your head. You come sit in this chair. Yeah.
How about sit in our seat?
Okay.
I sat on in that meeting, and I read that book, and I took it home and I read that book too. I got to remind everybody that red book, again, was in an in-camera personnel meeting. So why is it kept on throwing out and everybody, did you read it? Did you read it? Did you read it?
I never asked anybody here. I asked.
Just a minute, there's a big confidential breach going on here. That's what.
Hold up.
No.
Hold up, Council.
No, just a minute.
Okay?
If she's speaking, you
I
can't
was
cut her off.
talking.
That's a point of order.
Well, okay.
That's pretty
fine.
clear in the rules and regulations.
Okay, let's carry on.
When she's done, you can speak.
So,
We were given a job as a personnel committee to see if procedure was followed.
okay, well, why didn't you interview all the people in the parties then?
No,
Because you didn't. You only.
don't interrupt.
That's what people want to know.
Because we didn't feel. That's not my answer to me.
How do you find answers if you don't ask everybody involved?
You had a very good presentation. You had a very, very good presentation.
Not good enough.
That had nothing to do with what our decision was. You don't understand.
You don't understand.
No,
We have to
I
face
do
the public. There's
understand.
some pretty upstanding citizens here.
Oh,
and all of a sudden,
just a
half the
minute.
department is
No.
resigned, and nobody
No,
seems to care. and we're
I
just
think
gonna
there's
move on, and
I
it's no
think
big
there's
deal.
intimidation coming from here, and I've been seeing it a lot, and I've been
Support?
hearing a lot. Oh, I believe there's support, but there's also support from the other side, and there's a lot of people that do support the administration, and they do want this done over. They don't want this done. We want our fire department to keep going. Let's handle this, but not this way. You think we're just sitting
Gave
here
you 10
doing
weeks.
nothing? But
Gave
no,
you 10
no.
weeks to do it your way, and nothing happened. We just kept getting more smoke.
Sometimes good things take a long time to work.
Nothing good came of it.
Okay, Councillor Rock, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, I think we need to recognize and realize that some of these processes and some of the information that the public will get is incomplete. You're not going to hear what exactly happened to who and why. In the same way that you at your workplace wouldn't want your situation if it were a -1 splashed all over the neighborhood. There's requirements under that regulation and expectation. We expect a certain degree of privacy. There was also our bylaw. There's a process and it gives you recourse to challenge and request further a response to why, and gives, in this case, it gives individuals in the fire department specifically, and this is the fire department, which we must remember is a paramilitary organization. It's not part of the town workers proper. It's in its own way separate. It has one leader. The title of the leader is fire chief. It's paramilitary. It's a top-down command. Decisions are made at the top. It is not, as some people have suggested, that it's intended to be an organization that governs by committee or rules by committee. No, it doesn't. It rules simply by, you can get input, you can choose to use it or not use it, but somebody makes the decision, and that happens to be the fire chief. In this case, those things were followed, due process was followed, and we all know, and it's public knowledge, so I will say it, the decision of the Personnel Committee was not to reinstate, clearly. And that was all out in the public realm just about as quick as we put it out there anyway. So the challenge then becomes, going forward, how do the remaining firefighters see this situation? Are we helping them? Because those are the guys that are going to save our homes, save our businesses, and save our establishment. Those are the guys and women that have to be out there and be supported by council. And I would suggest, too, there's another issue here in this scenario, was the involvement of council beyond the expectation of our bylaws became problematic. Council got injected into the situation, and that's made it progress and made it extended much longer. So there's, and the problem with that is then it leaves that little bit of perhaps hope that, oh, maybe it'll be reversed. Well, that decision was made some time ago, and that is the decision of the process, and that's the way it remained. So from this tonight, I would hope that we start to look at how do we move forward as a fire department. There are those that will no longer be with us. There are those that chose to leave. Those are their choices. Thank you very much for your service.
So if it was one of your kids that was going to commit suicide and jump off the bridge and nobody showed up for 3 hours, you wouldn't be concerned? Because that's what's happening now. That's what you've created. Thank you.
Well, I didn't realize that there was 3 people that were doing all the saving. I thought it was a department. So when we see change, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're losing service. Change is change.
You are losing service. Ask around.
How many active members do we have right now, and how many active firemen? How many guys do we have right now?
Okay.
That'll be reported on later.
Just in response to getting dragged into this, but ultimately, council is responsible. I don't care if you call the fire department a paramilitary organization or not. Ultimately, all of you around the table were elected by members of this community to, in effect, be the bosses of this town. Right? That's your jobs. Yes, you have staff that give recommendations and all that, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with you guys. Right now, the town is not real happy with the situation. Is there no middle ground here? This situation is crying out for some type of middle ground. right? We're at a Mexican standoff here. You've got like people standing, behind you or behind myself. I'm not here to speak for them, but obviously tons of experience. They've been great members apparently up until now that, are out on the street of a volunteer position. I mean, how weird is that? They're fighting to get their volunteer jobs back, right? But this situation cries out for some middle ground and some common sense, and to be sitting, as just my opinion, to be standing behind procedure while the committee ruled, that's it. Obviously, there's a groundswell in town that isn't happy with that situation. So my question to council, and this is my last word, is there not a middle ground in this? This needs to be handled in a way that we can all, there's a little win here, a little win there, but this is not over. Like, it's not over, and it needs to be. As I said earlier, we need to move on. So I would implore council to find some other avenue, some middle ground, because clearly the general public is not satisfied with what's happened here. I'm not pointing any finger, but this needs to be dealt with, and with some give and take on each side. Thank you.
To Councillor Commodore's point about how that so-called Red Book got out, it was authored by Rick Roussan, Stu Carruthers, and Corey Dukowicz. They made their presentation as they were asked to do, and then they felt, after that period was up, that they could circulate it to whoever they would, and I think that's what they did. I agree with Mr. Hokus that there needs to be middle ground, and I think there is middle ground, and there can be middle ground once you right the wrongs of the past, and then you can move forward. You can't move forward and just pretend that something didn't happen. No one's out for blood. No one's out for scalps. We need to set the record straight and move forward. That's what we need to do. And that's what this is about. But Jim, it doesn't come up until later.
Some of your actions.
I was invited.
The middle ground, I agree with you 100%. The middle ground is where we should start. But there was stubbornness on both sides, and it was amplified by some of the council's actions. It's my opinion. That's how we ended up here.
Sorry.
Right?
I was invited in. Please don't say I jumped in. I was not. I was invited in.
Whether you're invited in, as councils, we have to be impartial. There has to be a middle ground. I agree, right? We want to finish it off and come to reconciliation. When two sides don't want to meet, and it's making it worse, and this is the part they don't see, there's like liability cases by their actions, right? So
CAO requested him to be involved in this. He never wanted to be involved in this. He was away out of town.
There's way more that you don't know about, so that's what I'm talking about. Right?
I saw it.
No, there's stuff you haven't seen.
Rick, Randy's not even here, so let's not, I'm not.
I'm just telling you the facts.
I know, but she's not here, so let's not.
Happen, right? So it amplified the situation, it made it worse. You can't do it the other, right? So, and here we are.
I've seen the proof. I know
you
the
didn't
facts.
see this stuff, right? You didn't see this stuff, trust me.
You guys are just bullshitting.
I'm not trying to bullshit anyone. No, this is
whoa,
not
whoa. This is not a place to come and toss words around like that, okay? This is the chambers of our town council. Okay, Councillor Morris.
I feel like a lot of accusations have been thrown out. Councillor Commodore, for whatever reason, you chose not to ask me about the leak to the newspaper. So for the record, I want to state that it wasn't me, was not in fact me that leaked the vote. Trent, if it was me, I give you permission to, out me right now in front of everybody if it was me who leaked the vote, because I know for a fact that it was not me. So I would just like to put that out there.
Thank you for that comment, because I've asked before and there was no reply.
If you would have asked me, I could have told you that, but you never took the time to even ask me that. As for not following procedures or injecting myself where I shouldn't, again, as a member of the personnel committee, I believe that I followed the procedures and policies to the book. Did I have people come to me outside of that and maybe make some complaints or have some issues and bring them to me? Absolutely. And I told them what the proper process and protocols were to follow to bring those issues forward to the proper administrators and not to take it on myself. So I just really wanted to clear the air about that, because there were some untrue things and assumptions made. So thank you.
Now, the second part, we weren't brought into that, but...
Well, I was not.
That's
Counselor again. Just wanted to state for the record.
Anybody else? Item number 5.
Jim, your guy over here smirking, I got a recording of him uttering threats.
Come on.
Guys,
this is
hang on,
getting way out of hand here.
Hang on, okay? We'll get nowhere.
Okay, Corey?
Corey Duquitz, I had no intent of talking this evening, but I'd just like to clear up a couple of misunderstandings.
Excuse me?
Yes?
What is this?
He's sitting here making fun.
No,
Okay,
just a minute. No,
let's
no,
move along.
just a minute.
Let's move along.
Let's
Let's
be
move
grown up.
along.
Let's be grown up here, okay?
He's an employee for the
Hold up, please, Mr. Picard.
Just stop, okay? Just
Let's-
take a breath. We definitely have an unfixable situation. That's where we are right now. It's been, if I count on my fingers, we had 3 or 4 months of this. It's a mess. That's what happens when situations are not managed, they become unmanageable. There's no smooth, easy solution to any of this at this point. And I think it's realistic to believe that, like a bad deal, everybody's going to come out of it unhappy. So there's no win, there's no losers, everybody's going to lose at this. That's where we are with it, unfortunately. How we got to that point, I think, is that, we had a situation that resulted in the termination of 3 of us, myself included, for reasons that are unknown. Procedures were not followed. There's a total of, I count them, 6 bylaws broken in the process of that alone. The very process of how we were terminated didn't follow the bylaws. If it wasn't for the involvement of certain members of council, it wouldn't have even went to a committee meeting, which it should have been automatically triggered to a committee meeting. We never should have been terminated. We should have been put on leave with an intent to terminate, as it states clearly in the bylaws. The whole process is very long, very clunky, very slow, painful. The thing that I don't understand in that whole process from day one to many, many, many weeks later to a committee meeting, the personnel committee meeting, that there's one single person at the center of all this has never been held accountable for any part of this. I know myself, and many of the members involved with this run organizations where we're managing 10 or 20 or 30 people or whatever it is. And as Mr. Houck has alluded to, if you had a mass termination or mass exodus, that's a scheduled clearing event. You don't wait 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 3 months to try to get to the bottom of that. You deal with that immediately and try to get it resolved. And that, I think, is how it's come to such a big mess. And I think that's my personal frustration is with that. Like, whatever happened, it happened. It's a mess. It's this, he said, she said. In the vacuum of facts, people make up their own truths and the social media mess and all that kind of stuff. It just should have been dealt with properly, quickly, and efficiently within a couple of weeks, and none of this would have ever existed. I agree that there's other things. We got water issues, we got infrastructure issues, we got all sorts of other issues. It is ridiculous that we're spending all this time on this, and I feel the frustration of all the people sitting in front of me. None of you signed up for this. I sure as hell didn't, when I became a firefighter, signed up for this. I signed up for, walking into burning buildings and hanging off the side of a bridge and whatever else that we did with this, not this. Hopefully at the end of all this, if nothing else comes of it, it's a learning experience. So when issues like this, whether it be at this department or any other department of it, that they're dealt with efficiently and effectively before it turns into this. I'd just like to make one point. Mr. Rock, you mentioned that in issues of personnel, which I understand, it can't be public because it's privacy and so on. The challenge with that is there seems to be this allusion to that there's some big dirty secret that everybody's hiding that they can't tell, and that's what I got terminated for. That is very, very dangerous because in the absence of truth, the absence of anything else, people come up with their own ideas. And for myself, as Mrs. Commoner alluded to, you remember the community people, can form their own opinions on that. And that's also something that's been frustrating. I've asked repeatedly, I went through a multi-hour presentation with the personnel committee trying to figure out why we got fired, defending myself against getting fired for reasons that were unknown to me. The question that you voted on wasn't even known to me until I was told after the fact that we weren't being reinstated, what the actual question at hand was. I was not asked one question during that whole committee meeting. And I also have learned that the other half of the fire chief in this situation wasn't questioned at all. So I have a hard time believing that that was a just decision, or at least a well thought out decision. That's not a personal attack to you or any other members of the committee, but I don't see all the pieces put together there. You know, I manage a large staff as part of my business, and a lot of other people I keep good company with do, and I've never seen that type of activity before. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Item number 5.1, rezoning application for 16 Bignell.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Rock, whereas the town received a rezoning application from Ron Chief, registered owner, to rezone 416 Bignell Avenue from residential single-family to residential two-family in order to construct a duplex. And whereas a public hearing was held on July 25th, 2016. Therefore, be it resolved that bylaw number 4553, being a bylaw of the Town of the Paw to amend Town of the Paw zoning bylaw number 4121, be read a second time.
Any questions?
Jim, I'll be abstaining from the vote.
Okay. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? It is carried. Third reading.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Rock, whereas the town received a rezoning application from Ron Chief, registered owner, to rezone 416 Bignell Avenue from residential single-family to residential two-family in order to construct a duplex. And whereas a public hearing was held on July 25th, 2016. Therefore, be it resolved that bylaw number 4553, being a bylaw of the Town of the Paw to amend Town of the Paw zoning bylaw number 4121, be read a third time and passed.
Okay, this is the third reading. There's a recorded vote. Councillor Gibb.
Aye.
Councillor Forward.
Aye.
Councillor Rock.
Aye.
Councillor Zelinski.
Abstain.
Councillor Morrish.
Aye.
Councillor Commodore.
Aye.
I am an aye. It's carried 6-0. One abstention. Okay, 6.3.1, Board of Revision.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Commodore. Whereas the town has received notification that the sitting of the Board of Revision date for the 2017 assessment roll will be November 14, 2016 at 6 o'clock p.m. And whereas in accordance with the Town of the Paw bylaw number 4540 being the organizational bylaw, council sits as the Board of Revision, therefore be it resolved that council sit as the Board of Revision on November 14, 2016 at 6 o'clock p.m. in council chambers, 81 Edwards Avenue, to hear appeals for 2016 taxes added and 2017 assessments. And be it further resolved that council appoint generally as a secretary for the Board of the Revision.
Tax time. Okay, any questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay. Six 6.3.2 assessment roll, additions and deletions.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gibb, whereas each year the assessment branch submits deletions and additions to assessment roll. Therefore, be it resolved that council approve additions in the amount of $1,618 and the cancellations in the amount of $5,571 to the 2016 real property roll as contained on a listing from the Intergovernmental Affairs Assessment Branch dated July 14th, 2016. So let's go on to it.
Okay, any comments? Question? All in favor? Okay. Six 6.4.1 variation 216 at 330 Fisher Avenue.
You missed a couple.
Did I miss one? Oh, pardon me, 6.3.4. Oh,
3.3.
how about we go 3.3, go up higher? Payroll and accounts, sorry.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gibb, resolved that council authorize the following accounts. General checks number 17,416 to 17465 in the amount of $149,712.78. KRC checks number 5602 to 5644 in the amount of $201,866. Payroll period number 14 in the amount of $105,516.86. I wish that was my payroll.
Pay the bills. Any questions?
Call the question. All in favor? .3.4, council training.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Commodore, whereas council directed the chief admin officer to look into finding some council training for them to take part in. Therefore, be it resolved that council authorize expenses incurred as a result of council training sessions proposed by Mr. Roger Bouvier.
I believe that October 15th. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? 7. 6.4.1, variation 052, 2016, 330 Fisher Avenue.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Commodore, whereas the town received a variation application from True Blue Developments to vary the required parking spots to 5 spots at 330 Fisher Avenue. And whereas the town held a public hearing on June 27, 2016, therefore be it resolved that council approve variation application number 5-2016 as submitted by True Blue Development to vary the required 8 parking spots to 5 parking spots at 330 Fisher Avenue.
Any discussion?
I would just say that I would be voting against the motion. And my line of thinking is that based on the variation that's been presented and the schematics that accompany it, I don't feel like what's being proposed is in line with our goals for downtown and not in line with the decisions that we've made as of late with respect to 2-hour parking and ensuring that our downtown is becoming a place where we don't have full-time permanent parking. And I just don't feel like this variation will meet those needs.
Okay.
I agree with Andrew, but he put it much more professionally.
Anybody else? Councillor Zielinski.
Much the same feelings. I just don't agree with the plan that's being placed in front of us right now. Not against the idea of the plan. I'm just not with the plan that's being presented. So I'll be voting against it.
I want to echo what Councillors Ford and Zielinski said again. Like, it's not the right fit, I think, for our plan right now, but we would definitely love to see some development there, just hopefully something that fits a little bit better with the plan.
One thing that I thought was good through the process we went through is that looking at Mr. Morton, because he came out with Mr. Olson and Mr. White to speak against it, but when we keep talking about goals of downtown, it's easy for us to sit here and say, here's the goals, but I think we need more input from people like yourself that have some skin in the game downtown. And if they'd be willing, I think we should approach them, since they're happy enough, and Michael as well, to come say, hey, how do we make this better, right? You know, parking's an issue, but sometimes from this side, it's you deal with it every day. I deal with it a bit, but some people deal with it more. So if you're willing, I know I mentioned to you before, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but even with Daryl and Rob, like, to get some feedback on how we can turn things around.
Councillor Rock?
In our last COW meeting, I made a number of comments about it and did state my position is to vote against it, and it remains that way. The only addition I would make is the challenge here is trying to balance a business proposal with access to businesses downtown and whatnot, and when it starts to impede on our parking on the street and access to the businesses, that becomes an issue, and council has to deal with it, so I still intend to vote against it.
Okay, anybody else? Pardon me? Just about one more person. That would be me. I think it's important to develop businesses downtown. I'll be voting in favor. Anybody else?
No, we all have our 2 cents.
Okay. All those in favor?
Oh.
There we are. All those opposed? Okay. It is not carried. So used to checking that box off.
I know, I'm so used to voting for.
Back to the drawing board, Mr. Orr. Come back with another one.
Motion to adjourn.
No, citizens period.
Oh, right, sorry.
Last opportunity for citizens period. Okay, board reports. Museum board?
No, our meeting's in September next.
Okay, Chamber of Commerce?
There hasn't been a meeting. We're not having a meeting this summer. but we have been keeping in contact with any emails that come through. But, yeah, just any correspondence that's been coming through.
Okay. Fawn Area Justice Network, no meeting. Sustainable Forest, Councillor Rock.
No meeting, no report.
Citizens on Patrol, Councillor Zelinski and Commodore. Community Development Corporation, there was no meeting and you were away. Recycling Board, Councillors Ford and Commodore.
Meeting coming up this week.
Okay, Kelsey Recreation Commission. Who's on that now?
It'd be me.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know when the meetings are.
I don't think they meet in the summer.
They don't?
September.
Okay. Paw Community Renewal Corporation, Councillor Marsh.
We don't have a meeting, but our 8th annual street festival is coming up on August the 20th, and they have partnered with the Chamber of Commerce, who is going to be doing a community-wide sidewalk sale on the same day.
Perfect. Encourage everyone to go to that. Library Board, Councillor Zelinski.
No meeting.
Joint Committee of Council, Councillors Rock and Commodore.
No meeting, no report.
Kelsey School Division Committee, myself, Councillors Forward and Zelinski, no meeting that I'm aware of.
No.
No. Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn the council meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we are adjourned.